In Guangxi, China, the trees here grow almost vertically on towering limestone cliffs. After hundreds of years of weathering, the landscape has transformed into breathtaking natural wonders that captivate the soul. On this trip, Ed needs to survive here for 10 days and enjoy life as if it were a vacation. Only then will the challenge be considered a success. After bidding farewell to the elderly village chief, Ed begins his challenge. His supplies remain the same four essentials: a survival kit, filming equipment, a satellite phone, and a drone. Starting off, Ed walks barefoot on the rocky ground, fully enjoying the foot massage service available anytime, anywhere. The sensation of stepping on stones gives him an indescribable sense of satisfaction. Since it's the rainy season, he must quickly build a shelter if he doesn't want to end up soaked like a drowned rat. This place is also home to many venomous snakes, which could attack him at any moment if he doesn't watch his step. He walked while carefully observing his surroundings to prevent any unexpected threats. Not far from there, he discovered a small cave where he could spend the night. But before setting up camp, he needed to inspect the cave. No matter the length or width, it was a perfect fit. There are still 2 hours before sunset. During this time, Ed searches the surroundings for anything edible. Very quickly, he spots a grasshopper that didn't check the calendar before venturing out. Don't underestimate this little thing. Its protein content makes up 80% of its total volume. After saying that, Ed immediately popped it into his mouth and enjoyed it. With one bite, the crispy texture crunched delightfully in his mouth. Still not satisfied, he quickly caught another one to enjoy. As he was enjoying his meal, one of its legs got stuck in his throat, causing him to choke. Luckily, he managed to remove it just in time. After finishing his meal, he quickly returned to the cave to sleep. But the ground inside the cave was full of cold, muddy water. Sleeping on it wouldn't be good for his chronic foot pain. So Ed found a dry spot nearby and laid down on the ground, falling asleep soundly. The next morning, Ed set out early to find his breakfast. He walked and walked until he unexpectedly came across a snake. Not knowing what kind it was, he decided to play it safe, avoiding the snake and continuing his search for another food source. This plant is called plantain. Its seeds are rich in protein and essential trace elements for the body. After a while, he collected a handful, but relying solely on this was clearly not enough to satisfy Ed's ambition. Continuing his search around, he discovered a bunch of wood sorrel plants. Their flavor was a mix of sour and sweet, often used by foreigners in salads. Additionally, he found plenty of wild mulberry trees. This fruit is something many people might have eaten as kids. Do you know this fruit? Let me know in the comments below. At this moment, his body had replenished enough energy. The next task was to start a campfire. He collected dry bamboo stalks to craft a fire-starting tool. The principle is to use friction to generate heat, igniting a small flame from within. That's the theory, but putting it into practice is a whole different challenge. After more than an hour, not a single flame had been ignited, and the sky was already starting to darken. He screamed in despair. The fire-making task couldn't be completed in time, so he could only lie down on the ground and sleep just like yesterday. In the middle of the night, a sudden thunderclap echoed across the sky, signaling an approaching storm. Ed had no choice but to crawl into the mountain cave to sleep through the night. By dawn, it was already raining, and the spot where Ed had slept the previous night had turned into a puddle of water. This place was no longer suitable for survival as originally planned. Ed set out to find another spot, continuing his journey to explore the surrounding area. As Ed walked past a pile of rocks, he suddenly spotted a wild plum fallen in a crack. Taking a bite, he enjoyed its sweet and sour flavor, finding it surprisingly delicious. Looking up at the tree, Ed noticed there were still plenty of ripe plums. He quickly began to pick as many as he could, planning to use them as food for the days ahead. Afterwards, he made his way to a small riverbank and discovered, not far off, a natural archway. The scene was so beautiful and majestic that it took his breath away. Continuing his exploration ahead, Ed walked while soaking in the rich natural beauty around him. The wildlife here was protected by the government, so he knew he wasn't allowed to touch or disturb any of the animals. He quickly gathered and ate some local plants to replenish his energy before continuing his journey of exploration. This is a plant called deadly nightshade, or belladonna. Although it looks appetizing, Consuming it could lead to immediate symptoms such as muscle spasms, blurred vision, and possibly even coma. After more than 3 hours of moving and replenishing energy from plants, Ed finally arrived at a large, towering tree. The location was perfect for building a temporary shelter. Ed planned to create a structure with a canopy by wedging bamboo between the tree roots on the slope, forming a triangular shape. Then, he would simply lay banana leaves on top to complete the shelter. With only 20 minutes until sunset, Ed knew he wouldn't have enough time to start a fire. So, he used the remaining bamboo and banana leaves to build a simple yet comfortable bed. As the night fell, Ed reflected on the past 3 days. Although he hadn't been able to eat meat, he was lucky that it was fruit season, and everything was going quite well overall. On the 4th day, Ed reinforced the roof of his shelter to protect against heavy rain and the cold night air. Then, he went outside to explore a new area. Unexpectedly, after walking just a few steps, he stumbled upon a king cobra, one of the most venomous snakes. With just one strike, you would start convulsing and foaming at the mouth within seconds. Ed quickly decided to return to his shelter, light a fire, and warm himself up. He used a stone to scrape some tinder from the surface of the bamboo. Then he used friction to create fire. Ed rubbed vigorously, desperate to get a spark. The spark finally appeared. Ed blew on it, and immediately a small flame burst into life. With the help of the fire, Ed's life in the forest was about to become much warmer. When Ed went out to search for food again, he discovered many wild loquats on the ground. The taste was sweet and tangy, very delicious, and it provided a good dose of vitamins. He didn't forget to pack some to take back to camp to enjoy later. Back at the camp, he mixed stones with clay to create a sturdy foundation, then placed the bamboo on top and covered it with banana leaves. This way, he crafted a soft and comfortable mattress for himself. It's time to rest and recharge. See you again tomorrow. On the 5th day, early in the morning, Ed was eager to explore a new area and discovered a nearby cave. Drawing from his many years of experience, he was certain that the cave would surely have some protein sources inside. But before exploring, Ed needed to make a torch for lighting. He found a pine tree and collected some resin from it. Back at the camp, Ed quickly placed the resin over the fire to melt it. Once melted, he added sawdust and stirred it well. Finally, he stuffed the processed resin into bamboo tubes. With that, Ed successfully made 2 torches. Without wasting any time, he grabbed the torches and began exploring inside the cave. Inside the cave was pitch dark. Even with the torches in hand, Ed couldn't make out the path ahead clearly. Walking along the cave for 300 meters ahead, a beam of light suddenly shone down from above. It turned out to be a sinkhole. Continuing forward, there was a 200-meter-deep cliff. This unique terrain left Ed, a person with much experience, in awe. He couldn't help but constantly marvel at the wonders of creation. Discovering many snails along the riverbed, Ed couldn't resist this natural source of protein. He quickly collected 32 of them before finally deciding to leave. Before the torch went out, Ed successfully made his way out of the cave. On the way back to camp, he searched for suitable ingredients nearby to combine with the snails he had collected earlier. This was a small wild onion plant, perfect for cooking the snails. On top of that, Ed found a bundle of wild taro. Finally, after days of surviving on just plants, he could indulge in a grand feast. Ed worked diligently to prepare the food he had gathered during his journey. After 15 minutes, the delicious dish was finally ready. The taro was soft, chewy, and fragrant with a natural sweetness. The snails had their fishy smell eliminated thanks to the combination with spring onions, and the meat was wonderfully tender, especially fresh and delicious with each bite. Ed started the 9th day with an upbeat mood, hoping that today he would have another hearty meal. The first thing he did was head to the creek to see if there were any creatures there. After searching for another hour, he finally caught a crayfish. If he catches a few more, he could prepare a hearty dinner. So, Ed continued searching under the creek, and after more than an hour of catching shrimp, this was his result. He had caught quite a few shrimp and crabs, all of which he brought back to his camp. Grilling over the fire until golden and crispy, just 5 minutes later, The grilled crayfish were ready. Excitedly taking a bite, the flavor was absolutely perfect, nothing to complain about. This night will be the last he stays here. Although it's a bit sad, he has to leave because the challenge is over. On the 10th morning, he woke up and restored the area to its original condition, bringing all his equipment to the meeting point to finish this journey. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to catch Ed's other adventures. Thank you everyone, and see you next time.